Hello, my beautiful friends. I hope you are really well. Today, I thought that in today's video, what I would like to share with you is my own story of experiencing imposter syndrome, because I don't think I have actually shared it on the video. Have done many posts. I have written many posts and newsletters on the topic and about, on the topic of my own journey, but I don't think I have actually shared it on the video. And so today I would like to share with you what I was experiencing physically and emotionally, so that if you are going through something similar, it might help you self-identify, and it might help to encourage you to start looking for help or start paying more attention to what it is that you are experiencing. Because it took me a long time before I actually eventually decided that I needed help and I needed to do something about how was I feeling inside. So my story started approximately 2012. Before I have become an imposter syndrome coach, I worked for an international hotel company. And I was very lucky to work in the countries like Spain, in Tenerife, in Slovakia, Dubai, Vietnam, Japan, and then my last position was in London, in the UK, in HQ of the company. Now, I have always worked in the capacity of director of sales and marketing. So the sales and marketing, the commercial part was my field. It means always a lot of pressure to obviously deliver the results, commercial results, bring the revenue in, bring the business in. So a lot of pressure. Approximately in 2012, this is when I started, I think I just moved from Dubai to Vietnam. I started feeling these kind of really high levels of stress, like more than normal. I have always been stressed because I worked in a very high-paced environment, but we get along with it. We just get on with it because that's what we do. But in 2012, this started being a little bit, this is getting a little bit funky because this is a little bit too much for a little bit too long. But what I thought was, okay, I need to be stronger. I need to just push myself harder and I need to be more resilient. That's what I thought that the resilience was at the time. Just keep pushing myself harder and forcing myself to be braver, to be more confident, to pretend basically more of confidence. But what was happening that more company trusted in my abilities because I was delivering the results and I started building the reputation that I knew what I was talking about basically within the company. And more my seniors and company trusted me, less I started trusting myself. And so there was this gap that started growing between how I felt on the inside and who I pretended to be on the outside, to make sure that I get the approval and that everybody sees me like I know what I'm doing. But on the inside, really, I was just constantly feeling like somebody somewhere is just going to find out that I don't know what I'm actually talking about, because my background or my credentials are not actually from the hospitality. I'm an English teacher. I have never had a single lesson on the hospitality. So everything that I taught myself was self-taught and was taught on the job. And so there was this constant feeling of me expecting like somebody somewhere is going to find out that I'm just making this whole shit up basically all the time. And so because I had these expectations or these fears, these worries that they are going to find out that I don't know what I'm talking about, I started working really long hours because I would be double checking everything. I would be triple checking everything. I would be analyzing the numbers, the forecast, the budget, the business on the books from all possible angles, just to make sure that I see all the scenarios that could happen. And so, of course, this kind of long hours started having a physical impact on my body, the burnouts, I'm sure you know the story, the burnouts and just kind of crashing because I would work 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, just to make sure that I was a step or 2 steps or 3 steps ahead of everyone else. However, in about 20, as I said, 12 or 13, these kind of high levels of stress started turning into anxiety attacks. And I started having physical symptoms in my body. So I would be sitting in a meeting and all of a sudden I would just start having really red marks here on my neck and on my chest. And I would just excuse myself saying that, I'm just so hot, I need to get out of the meeting and just to cool down a little bit. But really what it was, I needed to leave the room or I needed to leave the environment where I was in, because I needed to go and just take deep breaths to calm myself down because I was going into panic attacks. And this started being a very kind of a regular situation within my system. Every single meeting for me was a battle. It really was a battle, and I would just feel my body flushed with hot, just getting really, really hot. While inside my system, I was shaking, physically shaking, like if I was cold. So my body was all over the place. And then when I finished the meetings, I would have to go and close myself in my office. I would very often tell my team, just do not disturb me right now because I'm busy. But really what I was doing after the meetings very often was I would just have to, again, calm myself down, breathe, just until I kind of came into a present moment and I was able to function in a normal way. Another symptoms that I had, which today I know that I was falling into a shutdown. So my nervous system was falling into complete shutdown. How would that demonstrate in my body was that I would be able, particularly during the weekends, because during the week I was busy, but during the weekends, I would be able to sit on the sofa and stare into nothing for hours. Complete numbness. Like it felt like literally I was out of my body. And what I know is that it's my nervous system decided to shut down to protect me from something that it didn't want me to experience. But at the time, I didn't understand what was going on. And very often after 2, 3, 4, 5 hours of just sitting and staring at nothing, I would somehow get out of that state and I would slowly start functioning again. All of this was going on secretly, right? Nobody ever knew about this. Nobody had any idea about what I was experiencing because on the outside, I always appeared to be extremely confident. Like I put all my energy into pushing myself during the meetings to get through those meetings, to appear like I feel I am confident. And then I would just crash after the meeting. And so my body would be constantly drained because I would be going these high adrenaline peaks and then the crash, high adrenaline peaks and then the crash. Of course, all of this was kind of leading to insomnia. Forget about sleeping, like that was not such a thing as having a proper sleep. Insomnia, complete isolation from everybody. Because as I said before, nobody knew what I was experiencing, not even my husband, who was living with me. He didn't know. I was so good at masking things. He didn't know what I was experiencing, let alone anybody at work. So complete isolation, feeling extremely lonely, and then just being in this feeling that like I'm stuck and I'm trapped and there is no way out of this because there was this constant fear that I'm going to be discovered like I don't know. And so there is this cycle, this vicious cycle that just kept going and going and going. And there was no way for me to kind of stop or get out of this cycle, or at least I didn't know how, right? And this, as I said, was going on for about 4 or 5 years until the point when I said to myself, at some point, I literally fell down on my knees. I looked at the ceiling. I said, please, somebody, please help me. And this is when I decided that I do need to look for help because I just couldn't function like this anymore. But it really took me a long time to admit that the way how I functioned was not normal. And this is very often what we think, like, okay, again, a high-paced environment, we need to deliver the results. And so this becomes our normal, but it really, really is not. And so this is when I first time started looking for help. And I started being really curious about what is going on in my psyche that everybody else on the outside sees me as competent, somebody who knows what I'm doing, because I was delivering the results. I was getting the awards for being best commercial leader of the year. So again, on the outside, it all looked out like I knew exactly what I was doing. And so I've started being really, really curious, like what is going on in my psyche? I can see the results I'm delivering. I can see that everybody else is really supportive. It had nothing to do with anybody else. What is going on inside of me that I can't see what everybody else is seeing? Why am I so scared? What is the fear about? And this is when I started looking at, I need help, I need coach. And this is when I started looking for my first coach. And it took me a while to find somebody who could really help me with particularly imposter syndrome, because there are different ways of coaching or different kinds of coaching, and they all have their own place. They are all really, really, really useful. Business coaching, life coaching, executive coaching, spiritual coaching, all of that. But imposter syndrome is a very specific topic. And it took me a couple of years, as I say, to find somebody who was actually able to first logically explain to me what was going on so that I understand the mechanics, and going into really understanding how my brain, how my conscious, and how my particularly subconscious is driving my behavior. And then start doing the work, bringing what we've learned in the sessions, start bringing it to my real life, to my everyday life. And so that's why I want to ask you, if you do recognize any of this that I'm talking about, just please do not ignore those signs. Being functioning like this is not our normal way of functioning. There is just something in your subconscious mind, in your psyche, that is asking for your attention. So do not ignore it and start looking for help. And again, be really, really careful about who you are going to work with. Not because the coach that you would find is not a good coach, but it might just not be the exact thing that you are looking for. So look for somebody who knows, who has got the credentials, and particularly I think somebody who has experienced what you're experiencing, because it is really important that we can relate to each other as a coach and as a coachee, so that I understand what you're going through and you know that I understand you. That's really important. And if you are interested in maybe setting up a free session with me, you already know probably by now that I always offer a free session, not just a chit chat, but a free session before we decide whether we want to work together as a coach and a coachee. So if you would like to book that free session, the link is in the post. There is no obligation for you to work with me afterwards. But even in that one session, you will get a lot of insight into what's going on, and you will particularly get a lot of release so that you can soften for a while, and you can release a lot of the tension that you are currently holding. And then after the session, if you do decide that you would like to explore possible coaching partnership with me, then we can go and talk about it. So if this is something that resonates with you, or if you have recognized any of these signs, please just make sure that you look after yourself, whether it's me as a coach or whether it's anybody else. Just pay yourself attention, because you really, really do deserve it. So that's it for today. As a build up to Christmas break, I'm going to do a few more videos, starting from this video, where I'm going to start sharing exactly what imposter syndrome is, what are possible tools that you might look at exploring. So if you would like to be tuned into these videos and be notified of these videos, then in the link in the comments, there is a subscription to my newsletter. Subscribe, and then I will make sure, obviously, through the newsletter that you get all of these videos. And then you can start playing. Just be curious about what it is that you're feeling. How can you hold yourself with love and with compassion? There is no judgment. There is no blame. You know, this has nothing to do with forcing anything, but just in case you're feeling like, okay, I might be ready to explore a little bit, I am here to hold your space. I know how you feel, and I'm sending you so much love. And as always, I'll speak to you soon again. Bye.